Hi, this is Carl, also known as Zarepath in the custom magic community, and I'm here to do a custom set review of Avarelle by Philippe Rayner, I believe his name is. I'm sure I'm mispronouncing it, but this is a fairy tale medieval custom magic set that's been in the works for a while before Throne of Eldraine was announced, the most recent official Wizards of the Coast magic set. Um, and there have been a bunch of spoilers of that today. And Avarelle has seen a lot of polish and a lot of development over time, and especially with Throne of Eldraine coming out, I believe the creators decided to kind of um, complete this set, to kind of do a final polish and declare it done. Um, and I promised him I'd do a review of his set already, and I thought today would be a good day to do it now that Throne of Eldraine is kind of happening. It's interesting to look at the custom magic approach to a fairy tale set compared to the Wizards of the Coast approach, who obviously have a lot more resources, but it's interesting to see some of the same things that they both did and some divergences as well. Um, so Avarelle, I'm here in the Plane Sculptors page. I'm going to go through not card by card, but I'm going to literally look at every card. This might be a long video. It might be shorter than I think it will be. Who knows? On a slightly personal note, uh, I'm on baby duty tonight, so if I do this and I hear my baby screaming, this might become a multi-part video as I will suddenly have to stop, and that will just be the end for now. But hopefully that doesn't happen. We can go through the whole thing. Uh, the intended tone is whimsical and sometimes silly, that's definitely a divergence from what Wizards is doing, and it kind of focuses on creating ridiculous narratives within the gameplay. Uh, Marrying is a mechanic, which I think that yanks the tone really far into whimsical, and there's no way of going back. Sort of just swatting a bug that got in here somehow. Um, I liked this approach to the gameplay. It's intended to be fairly relaxed. There's not a lot of gotcha moments, ideally, not too much stress, a lot of top down designs. And the times I've drafted this set, that's definitely felt true. It just feels relaxed and fun with lots of fun cards just to look at. Um, it's just enjoyable to look at the cards in the set. They definitely draw your eye and get you thinking of kind of crazy narratives, right? I remember one win that Mark Rosewater said that Kaladesh had was when people crewed vehicles with other vehicles, which is just kind of a ridiculous thing if you really start to think about it. But then the more they started thinking about it, the more fun of a moment it became. Like, my train is driving my car. Like, how ridiculous is that? People remembered that. I think that's similar to marriage, although marriage literally being called marriage makes it a lot more ridiculous and kind of calls more attention to it than kind of the vehicles crewing vehicles thing. Um, but there's some actual game design equity to be had there, something useful there, and I think Avarelle, from what I've seen, nails that. Draft archetypes, curse control, and blue white. I'm really skeptical that you can do that. I haven't looked real closely at the curses, but I just remember thinking that I don't know how often this will actually be an archetype, and I think if players think that they're supposed to be taking lots of curses and blue white, I don't know how well that's going to work. Knight tribal and black white. Interesting, they do knights also on Throne of Eldraine. Aggro marriage and big marriage. Just the names of those archetypes are kind of funny. Uh, I think we've all known a few people with aggro marriages, and I don't know what the real life equivalent of big marriage is, but that's kind of funny. Oof tribal. I have some opinions on oofs. We'll get there. Wizard tribal. That seems fine. Adventures. That's the most unique, cool new mechanic in the set. Blue-green ramp, the eternal custom standard archetype, your custom magic archetype for blue-green. Black-red aristocrats, I like aristocrats, that's fun. Death touch fight combo. I don't know if you can make a whole archetype around that, but I like that that exists. Okay, So mechanics, I believe there's 4. Transform, just mostly for the narrative component. I think it fits well for the set and what it's doing. This card looks very appealing. I think this is probably exactly how you want it to be. It makes you really question the value of sacrificing another creature. It's an exciting 1-drop. I really like the design. Marriage found in every color, but unusual in black and rare in blue. It's interesting you think about the philosophies of these colors. Black is so selfish. Blue is, you know, obsessively seeking knowledge and overly focused on those pursuits. It leads to a little bit less marriage in those colors. And yes, fairy tales are obsessed with marriage. So I think the art is pretty well. It's hard to be completely consistent on the art, particularly because consistent meaning across all of the cards in the set, they all have the same style and tone. I think the creator has correctly noted in the chat for their set that Wizards of the Coast sets don't have completely uniform style either, and sometimes it's too uniform and too consistent, and I would agree with that. I think Wizards is losing a little bit of the whimsy that made earlier sets just feel absolutely fantastic, and not the superlative term, but the literal term of just pure fantasy and um, just a lot of different ways to see all of these strange new fantasy things visually. Um, like the Phil Foglio art and random abstract art. And nowadays, I feel like we have too much 3D art just because it's cheaper to produce. But I I like the creator's approach to having varying styles. Anyway, this tells kind of a fun story too. It looks like the girl knight is valiantly protecting the. I believe it's a boy. No, or it just might be another girl. But it's not the stereotypical marriage setup here or protector setup, which is fun. Uh, yeah, so it's at the beginning of combat you can pair them for as long as you control both. So it's like a mix of soul bound. I don't think it's soul bond. It's soul bound. Soul bond is a different mechanic, except it's not an ETB. It's at the beginning of combat. You figure those things out. And warband, which is another custom mechanic, where also at the beginning of combat. Well, not at the beginning of combat, but when this creature attacks, you can pair it with another attacking creature. And that only lasts during the attack, I think, or until end of turn. I don't remember how it works. But it becomes permanent once they get married at the beginning of combat. They don't have to attack. It just declares a specific time that it happens. It avoids a lot of the weird flicker ETB shenanigans that kind of defined Soul Bond. Soulbound, whatever it was called. It's just a pretty good mechanic, creates nice narratives. This is the fun new one, Adventures. And Adventures, he's been working on for a while. It's really unfortunate that the splashy new mechanic in Throne of Eldraine is also called Adventure, and it's a type, or subtype, rather. So here in Throne of Eldraine, it's like pre-kicker in some ways. You've got these creatures, but you send them on an adventure, you pay 3 mana, they do their thing, but then you can still cast the creature later. Which, in my opinion, is a better version of kicker. I think there's a lot of feel bads with kicker. When you have to cast it before you can do the whole thing. Of course, there's some versions of adventures that are similar, where there's situations where you have to cast the creature before you can send it on an adventure, and I guess it's the same problem that kicker has. I mean, not to hate too hard on kicker, it's a great mechanic. So their version of adventures is kind of creating planeswalkers for your opponent that give you rewards when you attack them. They give no advantage to your opponent, like they don't have plus and minus abilities, but it makes it clear to your opponent that they can block it, you can attack it. I think if you were to play this in paper, I would encourage players to put this on your opponent's side of the board to make it clear you can defend this, right? So you don't just have this random enchantment on your side of the board, and during your turn, by the way, I'm attacking this. Wait, you're attacking your own card, and then they pick it up and read it. They're like, oh, I can defend this. If I'd known that, I wouldn't have swung at you the last turn or whatever. This simplifies things probably just about as well as you can. I kind of like the colloquial nature of this line. You can attack it, and your opponents can block for it. There probably is a better technical way to do it, but I kind of appreciate just the simplicity of it. Stealing dragon eggs. So marriage and adventure, I think, just have wonderful narratives to them. 2 mana to potentially get a 4/4 red dragon creature token with flying, but also you're kind of helping your opponent gain 3 life when you do it. Because if you were able to hit this, then you would have been able to hit them. Yeah, so I have a few concerns with the mechanic, with the caveat that I haven't actually played with it. If I'm getting spiky and I'm drafting and I'm looking, all right, what cards are always going to be good in my deck, whether I'm behind or ahead or at parity, and adventures seem squarely to only be good when I'm ahead, reliably good. If we're at parity and I have some evasion, that's good. If we're at parity and I'm willing to sacrifice some creatures in an alpha strike to then get a dragon, that's okay. I can kind of craft situations if I'm being spiky and evaluating these cards. But most of the time, I'm going to look at that and be like, I would rather just have the 2/2 bear for 2 that I know can already start attacking my opponent, um, or block their own adventures that they're trying to go on. I think it's correct that adventures are in blue-red because blue has the most evasion and red is the best at being fast and aggressive and can also have spot evasion at times when needed. So it makes sense that blue-red has adventures. Um, I would be very interested to see how R&D would redevelop adventures, like how they would prune the costs, or I keep wanting to say loyalty costs because that's what it looks like to me, but the quest counters to make them more exciting and more playable. There's a lot of knobs here though, and so it's not like the mechanic is nothing can be done if it's not strong enough. I think there's things you can do. I'm going real in depth on the mechanics before I get to the cards, so the cards will go faster than this hopefully, but I want to go through all my thoughts on adventures now. Well, maybe I should just bring them up as I go, then I'll have more examples. And then cycling is just kind of a good workhorse mechanic, which, I definitely sympathize with that because I'm using cycling in my own custom set of Karsus right now. Okay, this was the last thought I wanted to make on adventures. I wonder if the creator experimented with adventures giving you something when you first cast them. Like, what if every adventure gave you a creature token that's meant to go on the adventure? It doesn't have to be that creature, it can be any other creature, but if adventures gave you a token of the kind of fairy tale creature that's likely to go on this adventure, like if this gave you a 1/1, white human, it would feel better. Like it at least gives you a chump blocker if you're behind, or that one extra body you need to be able to get something through to actually obtain the adventure, to successfully complete it. I do like that. I don't know if they noted it here or up here. Okay, life gain is fairly plentiful. Adventures providing rewards for attacking without damaging players. Games should see plenty of attacking, but still be fairly lengthy. I don't know that they should see that just because that's an option, because like I said, the spike in me sees those cards and thinks, why would I play them? I'm just going to attack and damage those players and leave back a creature token to chump so they don't complete their adventures, right? So I wonder how true this is if everyone is playing, hyper optimized and building their decks that way. And I think that kind of clashes a bit with, the whimsical and silly tone that the creator is aiming for, it's fairly likely players are just going to be happy trying adventures and, completing them some of the time, not completing them others, but at least giving it the good old try. And the spikes aren't going to care so much about that, and it's okay that they're not running the adventures. I don't know. I don't know how good you want them to be, but they seem very swingy and win more, which isn't, there's lots of great mechanics that are swingy and win more. But those are the concerns I would have. It reminds me of what's the mechanic? It was a mechanic that didn't see the light of day. It was for Ixalan um, locations. Conquer. It was called Conquer, and it was an enchantment that when it came into play, it gave you an effect, and then if you basically crewed it, which is where the Conquer keyword comes in, you tapped creatures with total power of whatever the number is. When you conquered the location, you got the effect again. The enchantment would go away. Um, I kind of stumbled on that same design, except you didn't get anything when you first played it. You just had your rift or whatever I was calling it at the time, and you didn't get anything until you crewed it. And I realized, this is going to feel really bad when you're behind. I wonder if this should give you something up front. Someone pointed out, oh, this is just the conquest or the conquer mechanic, and they pointed me to the article where the mechanic was discussed, and I was like, oh, I feel good. I came kind of close to what they were coming up with and didn't eventually use for Ixalan, but they didn't have any marks against the mechanic except that it didn't fit the set. Anyway, coming back around to adventures, I wonder if this wants to give you a small effect and then you get a bigger one when you complete it. Like, uh, you know, you get this right now, but you get twice as much when you complete the adventure. That kind of ruins the narrative a little bit, and it makes it more complicated. It takes more text when we're already using a lot of it for the reminder text. So I've said all this. I have to go back to my original caveat. I haven't played with them, and I kind of trust the creator. Like, I'm sure they've gone through all these arguments before and have tuned the environment appropriately. Uh, but food for thought anyway. Now let's look at the cards. So I'm just going to go through commons first. I think looking at commons, I get a better idea of how the set is structured generally. By the time we get to uncommons and rares, we have a better idea of what those do to the environment. Um, and it's also kind of more fun and exciting at the end. So we're going to be ramping up there in excitement. Okay. Azorian Knight. At first I was like, oh, why did you use something that sounds so much like Azorius? But the flavor is actually really cool. I like how they use the flavor of, WotC's Azor going to all the different planes. Be like, oh, why didn't they go to a custom plane? It's kind of a fun throw in there. I don't know if a 3-1 for 2 is where you want cycling, because this is very often relevant. Early on, if you're trying to find a land, you would probably still rather have the 3-1, I think. Like, you'd feel worse because you could have cast this instead of cycling for a land. So the opportunity cost, I think, is felt more on this design. And late game, 3 power. While this is not going to attack really really well, if it can attack well, it'll help you finish the game. And if it can't attack well, it can always defend well. 3 damage on the 2 cost body is usually pretty good. So I don't know if this is the best design for cycling. It's probably fine though. Like, it's definitely appealing. Like, usually a 3-1 for 2 is. It used to be, very often main deckable, but nowadays it's not as good, just as, depending on the format and how much pinging there is. But now, 2-mana 3-1s with a little bit of a bonus is pretty appealing. I like Azorian Sky Priest. It's essentially just a take on Trusted Pegasus, except a little bit worse. But not strictly worse, because you don't have to attack. You can just, at the beginning of combat, give something else flying, and then hold back both as blockers. Whereas Trusted Pegasus, you only gave another creature flying while it was attacking, so a little bit more utility. Befriend. Oh, I love this reminder text. It can still go on adventures. When game text and reminder text is both technically correct and just absolutely resonant, that's just a wonderful thing. It can't attack a permanent you control. Oh, because it controls its own adventures. That makes sense. But why throw in or a permanent you control? Oh, so it can't attack your planeswalkers. And it can't block your creatures. This is kind of... I mean, why isn't it just pacifism? Oh, because you want them to still be able to go on adventures. And this is just cute flavor and nice art. I like it. Beloved Queen. I don't understand what an oof is, but I think it's on any animal. I think I remember reading that it's on any animal that is anthropomorphized or whatever, that it's, you know, it can communicate and so on. I like the flavor text. That seems pretty good. So obviously go wide stuff here with white. I don't remember there being a go wide archetype, but I like this design better when it's on higher costing things that also have evasion. So even though the body has to be small because the effect is big, if it has evasion, it still has relevance. So I think we've seen this design on like a 4 and a white 3/3 angel, but um, I mean this is probably still okay. You're just generally never playing this on turn 3, like you're usually holding this back. So this is a... Oh no, I'm thinking of that common 2 white creatures you control get +2/+1. I forget the name. I think that might be an instant, and that's why this works out okay as a sorcery. So I think Oofs is a sub theme. Like there's some mechanical bonuses for that. I don't know how I like that. It'd be interesting to see an Oof deck that is... Oh yeah, there was like green-white Oofs or something. I'm sure I'm mispronouncing it. Where it's nothing but different animals. That might be a fun deck to play. You can see all of the different random animals together. Disproportionate punishment? Okay. Oof. Huh. I love the flavor text. This is so true to the grim fairy tales. So the thieves will all roll down the hill in barrels full of nails. That's absolutely how the actual grim fairy tales are. There's just... And this might even be the very last line of the story. Like right before it is, they got married and lived happily ever after. Meanwhile, the lying priest had his head cut off. The end. Go to sleep now, children. Dub is a good reprint. That's a adorable art. Giant killer. I like this conditional death touch in white that only destroys really big things, and the fact it's on a cute little mouse is wonderful. All right, so we've got some transform. This isn't in a special slot in the booster pack. It's just in the normal slots. It's not paying a lot of attention. It doesn't want the player to be like, oh, this set is all about DFCs. It has double face cards. There's one in every pack. It's just kind of supplemental because of the mechanic's ability to show narrative, which I think is correct. I'm noticing I use the phrase, I think this is correct, a lot, as if there's, one true way to do design. I really just mean it. It just seems like a good approach. I approve. Missing flavor bars. I think there is a way to do that in the DFCs, but I've heard that there's problems with that with some people. So this is good for Night Tribal. There's a lot of adorable little oofs in white. This goes really well into the next oof. So maybe oofs is a wide thing, because we have Critter Crash and Beloved Queen. This is definitely signaling go wide with woodland creatures. That 2-mana bear that gives you another token does curve well into Beloved Queen. And then if you've got this one at 1, yeah, that's cool. That Plentiful Life Gain that was mentioned before. I wonder if this is a really good card in the format because it's evasive for completing adventures. And if you're completing adventures, you're probably not doing a good job of racing. But if you are gaining life as you're doing it, it gives you some time to get value from those adventures. Some more Plentiful life gain. How is this an oof? I guess because it's sentient. No, the flavor text kind of signals that. I don't know how well the oof signaling is going to work for players who don't know the rule that any sentient being is an oof. Because aren't oofs already in Magic, and I don't think that's how they're displayed otherwise. I don't know. I think if this were a WotC set, they would talk about it, and all of the enfranchised players would know, and it wouldn't be an issue. But this is kind of a cute thing where it actively helps your knights. Sentenced to isolation. Okay, so here's a curse. It gains you 2 life a turn. How good is gaining 2 life a turn for 3 mana? I don't know. If adventures are played, then they just start ignoring your life and attack adventures for value. So this does go towards the gameplay of games being longer, there being lots of life. However, the fact that it doesn't actually do anything to the board makes me worry this is a bit of a trap and limited. Oh, Tranquil Moment. Oh, that's cute. Uyavian Paladin. There's 2 1-drops at common in white. And there's already another lifelink creature in white. Oh, this is a very good card, by the way. You can treat this basically just as an aura, as the board becomes more hostile to 1/1s, which is pretty immediate. But being able to give your evasive things lifelink at common on a body is really good. I remember in Avacyn Restored, the Nearheath Pilgrim was a 2-mana 2/1, a Soul Bond lifelink. That was an incredible card in that format because it was so tempo based, which is going to be different than this format. But if you could give any of your creatures lifelink, that just swung the game pretty crazily. Okay, we saw that one. Yuragi Knight. Is that a knight? 5 minutes. As long as those players are enchanted, as vigilance and lifelink. Okay, I think I'm starting to see the curse control thing. Problem is, if the curses aren't, I don't think control decks want 3 mana sorcery speed things that don't affect the board. But I see how it comes together, I guess. Oh, and then there was Tranquil Moment for bringing them back if you need to. Oh, I really like this. I thought of running a lot of these when I was drafting. I looked at this and I was like, playing a 1/1 that you can pay 4 mana to give it 2+1/+1 counters and give it prowess permanently. Is that good? It feels okay. I don't know. That flavor text is great. I really like how the flavor is. Animated marionette, humanized sorceress. This isn't using, it's not a play on like an exact fairy tale, it's a lot like Pinocchio, right? But it's obviously not the same thing, and it doesn't feel like a twist on it. It's just kind of inspired by it, and I think that approach has been really good because it keeps Avarelle feeling unique, um, as opposed to just, oh, this is the fairy tale as a card. Apprentice Witch, the good old 1/2 prowess for 1, which I like. So I forgot that prowess was in here. That's not an evergreen mechanic anymore. But Blue-Red Adventures, if prowess is a thing, I was thinking, adventures trigger prowess, so that's kind of a nice combo. It makes them a little bit harder to block, so it's not straight up evasion. There's more interaction there, and you have to bluff a little bit more. You have to be like, oh, I might have another 1 mana instant. If you try and block, I'll blow you out, destroy a creature, which I know they said they didn't want too much of that in the environment. Prowess does bring some of that, but I at least like how that works within the archetype of adventures within that environment. It's a way to have evasion that isn't so binary, like either you can block me or you can't. It just makes it a more interesting choice for them. Well, speaking of that, this is binary, but you do have to be running adventures. And again, I worry that the adventures, just by the nature of how they are, how the mechanic is, they're not going to be good enough, and that will just like make entire archetypes like blue-red not great. Uh, Another thing about curses fit the setting really well. But if you're cursing your opponent, but you also have adventures, I worry if there's going to be a lot of confusion of whose cards are whose. If you're putting curses on their side of the battlefield and adventures on their side of the battlefield and mixing them up because they're both enchantments with subtypes, but they're doing different things. However, I still totally approve of curses, so it's just something to be aware of, I guess. Cloud Giant, that seems fine. Want to mess with your settings on that in MSE there, just so you can read all the flavor text clearly. Court Astrologer, Curse of Madness. Okay, so I think the idea of blue-white curses is you have the common curse that gains you life each turn, and the common curse that makes them mill each turn. And so you're just gaining life and they're losing their cards 3 a turn. That's pretty significant. I'd be interested in trying that deck. I know I ragged on it already, but now I see the how it's supposed to work, and I want to try it, even though it's probably not good. It'll be difficult for that to be good. Was there a white vanilla creature? I think there must have been. Get Lost. Sorcery Speed. So if the Prowess deck is meant to be casting their stuff at Sorcery Speed, this looks like a Prowess card, right? You get tempo, and it's cheap. Then it doesn't really conflict with the format goals nearly as much, because you're not getting them in the middle of combat and blowing them out. You're signaling exactly how big your creature is going to be before it attacks. And so then, it's still an evasion. They can still decide to chump, but you're not blowing them out. 3/3s for 4 that make treasure are always appealing to me for whatever reason. And limited. I don't fully understand the flavor text on that one. Seek Fairyland, Common Adventure. Did White have a Common Adventure? I don't think it did. So all you have to do is get in once, and you get 2 flying wizards for 2 mana. Fairy wizards. I don't know how good that is, but we've already seen some evasion with the 2/1 that can't be blocked. Sentence to Honesty. Ah, that's a fun curse. I don't know if the format really wants... I mean, that's just a lot of strategic complexity. When you can see every card your opponent has, that just gives you more information to decide, like to make your decisions more complicated, because you have to think through, will they play that? Are they going to play this then? Do I need to bait that out? Especially if they have a counterspell in hand, then you don't want to do anything, But then the correct thing might be to play something into the counter. This might be better at uncommon, I think is what I'm saying. But, I mean, Wizards has been okay with this at common before, but I don't think recently. Sleep forever. Unless it's... Oh, this is beautiful. If somebody marries the creature, then it can untap. This is a wonderful design. I hope that Throne of Eldraine hits some of these same things as well as their hit in Avarelle, because a lot of these designs are honestly knocked out of the park. Like Sleep Forever is just amazing, and there were some white ones too that I don't remember what they were now, but they were just wonderful. This is going to help you hit adventures, but it only has one power. I guess you're playing it so your other creatures can get in, and the common adventure only has, a count of 1. Sprinkle Dust Pixie is helping your other creatures get through 2. These are kind of accomplishing the same thing. I wonder if you just want one of them. Like if you want this to be a 1/3 and be more of a defensive thing for the blue-white deck. I don't know. Did they say blue-green was ramp? I don't see yet how blue is ramping. I guess I saw a 6/6 for 6 that they could conceivably ramp into. Walk the Fairy Path. Oh, this is another good 1-mana sorcery speed prowess card. I approve. I'm really glad that that's how they're doing that. Some more flying. Yeah, so there's a fair amount of evasion and lots of ways to grant evasion in blue. This is wonderful art. If they're cursed, counter instead. Okay, so this is... It feels weird that the cursed colors are blue and white. Blue makes sense, but why white? Why is white care about cursing them? I don't know. Uragi Witch. Ooh. You might want this to be up to 1, or target creature and opponent controls, because a lot of times you might be forced to return your own creatures if you're going into an empty board. Bandit Knight. Okay. That's okay. Blight Egg. Oh, I think Black-Red was Sacrifice. So this makes sense. Oh, eggs. I haven't gone into eggs, but there's a delightful egg build-around card. And every time I've seen it, I've wanted to go deep on eggs. Brutal Strike. We're into black now. This is a weird keyword soup combat trick. If it has Death Touch, it gains these other things. Otherwise, it just gains Death Touch. Which... I think I like my combat tricks simpler and better. Of course, if black-green cares about Death Touch, I guess gaining lifelink is nice too. I don't know. I'm curious how this plays. I would only want to run this in my deck as an experiment. I don't see it and think, oh, I definitely have to have this in my deck. So I don't know if the weird design is worth it, is what I'm saying. Like maybe you just want something coat with venom, something that grants something Death Touch and gives it some toughness at the same time. So you might trade, you might be able to 1-for-1. Cave Giant. That's fun. Alright, I talked about Child Catcher Witch already. Costly Plunder. Cruel Edict, good reprint. Another interesting reprint, Flying Death Touch. Oh, because they need Death Touch for black-green and the flying for adventures. Elderly Fi. Is that a word? Man-eating snail. Huh. It enters tapped at common. I know they reprinted Diagraph Ghoul, or not, it has a different name, but it's still the same design. It was originally uncommon. I think, was it reprinted at common? I don't know. There's gonna be some decks where somebody just runs a ton of these and they ignore adventures, they don't care about them, and they just go for your face. And everybody expecting this kind, slow environment is going to get run over by man-eating snails with weird art. um, so this is like actual medieval art, which is you know, kind of contentious. People think, do you really want to comment with art that just looks awful? And the creator made the point, you know, it's okay to have different styles of art. The fact that it's medieval adds a nice, quaint flavor in small amounts. I don't know. Personally, I just think it obviously needs to be changed. It doesn't look professional. It doesn't look like something that would be in a real set. But I respect that they at least have reasons for it that, you know, that aren't nonsensical. I just think bottom line it doesn't look great, but if they think overall the effect is positive for the set, then cool. Pact Mage, wizard that when it dies makes another wizard that flies. Having lots of flying tokens is good with adventures, but is it good if it's too easy? I guess is the question. I've noticed that a lot of these things you have to work to create the flying, so that's good. You have to get an equipment to do it, or you have to perform a marriage, or um, you have to run a 1/1 for 2 that flies. Slay the monster. Okay, having an adventure that destroys a creature, I don't know how I feel about this because it only has one. You can kind of get there out of nowhere with a haste or evasive thing or some removal. If I'm playing against Slay the Monster, I feel really weird about playing good creatures. I only want to play crappy creatures in case they get slain. And it creates a bad feeling, I think. Um, to have kind of a pending, essentially a seal of removal just sitting on the battlefield. I know in practice you can block against it. You can try and control the board instead. Uh, but I don't know that I like the feelings that would come from this. It'd be more interesting if it made them sacrifice a creature, I think, because then they can play around it a bit and be like, well, sure, I'll let you hit my adventure, but then I'll just sacrifice a token or whatever. But then that might not be good enough for the card to exist. So I'm very interested in how this plays and how it feels to play against, because my instinct is that this isn't an effect you want on a common adventure, just because it'll feel really lame to play against. It'll cause them to not cast creatures, which is bad. Small town shopkeeper. Okay, kind of a pseudo kicker. You trade 1 mana for a mana later. I like that. Terrible king. I just love the name. It's resonant in 2 ways. Like, he could just be a bad king. He could also just be, he's a horrible king. He's the worst. And the design works well. Theft of Beauty. Oh, cycling by tapping. Has there been cycling in every color? I don't remember cycling in blue. Unburden. I like this card. I'm using it in Karsus also, where I'm using cycling. Wander in Death is another cycling reprint. Oh, so I've seen 3 cycling cards in a row at common and black. Writhing Rotworms. So there's 2 common Death Touch creatures and a spell that cares about having Death Touch. Okay, I wonder how that black-green deck plays. Back to back. Okay. If they're paired, get a bonus combat trick. Another fun, flavorful picture. Like I said, the art and flavor and resonance do a great job of when you play the card, you just already start thinking of narratives. Disorder and Confusion. Is this a reprint? In order to fight each other, you must first find each other. That's cute. Okay, some more treasure. So I guess treasure is another theme here. Why? Why not? Oh, so this goes well in Blue-Red Adventures. Eggman, Egg Berserker. I love that this has haste and is fragile in its tramp. I mean, this is just wonderful. How is that egg walking and talking? Why is it so ill-tempered? How did it become so good at fighting? Yeah, that's nice. This is kind of a weird card. It's very situational. Like it just burns things, but also if they have a planeswalker, it randomly blows them out. And if you have adventures, it can like randomly get all your adventures. And if you don't have any of those things, you can cycle it. So on the surface, it makes sense as a cycling design, but just reading through it makes me think, wow, what a niche card. If this is what you have to run to make adventures good, I just want to stay away from adventures. Ingenious Fool. This is just Goblin Smuggler, which is a really fun design and very powerful. And perfect with adventures, actually. It's either going to get an adventure itself or help you get your adventure. So I know I said that I'm low on adventures and limited, but the amount that the environment's been built around them makes me hopeful that there's some decks out there that are good, that make adventures good. Lonesome Giant. That's a wonderful art. I like that. Manflinger. To any target. Oof, Mole Wizard. This, yeah, that's probably fine. Passionate Pyromancer. Upgrade to Demolish. This might even be a reprint, but... Okay. Seek Your Fortune. Oh, get 3 treasures, but you're paying 2 mana. This is weird at common. If you happen to go first and you had a 1-drop, this can create some crazy ramp. This also feels like an uncommon just because of how absolutely swingy it is. Not just in getting a big effect, but in the effect you get, allowing you to create even bigger effects. Like that kind of mana acceleration at common that depends so much on who goes first. I don't know that you want that implementation of adventure at common. Setting fires, similar issue to Destroy the Beast or whatever it was called, where it might make opponents just not want to play their good creatures. Because what if they get tapped down, or what if they, they get a flyer? Then your big creature is basically, you just feel dumb for doing it into a Setting Fires or into a Destroy the Beast. Slay the Beast, whatever it was called. It's difficult to make common adventures. I think that's what I'm saying. Like, this is a nice, resonant, simple effect, but it just might be miserable to play against. Song of Summer. Okay. I like this effect. You burn a creature or an adventure. First Strike and Haste. I like these alternate cycling costs as a way to explore cycling space in the set to kind of justify having it. I haven't really explored cycling space at all in Karsus. I'm just like, oh, I like cycling. I think it fits here. This is kind of a wordy, interesting comment to evaluate. First Strike and Haste, but it's only a 3/3 for 5. I guess in situations where it's not good, you can sacrifice something and draw a card. I think this is often used just as a sacrifice outlet, essentially. And then in other situations, it can be a defensive thing or attack in for adventures. I don't know, just kind of a weird card. Whirlwind Romance. Okay. So you gain control of an unpaired creature, and then you can... Okay, so it's active treason, but then if you marry it, while you've active treasoned it, it gets a bonus. That's fun. I think that works. There's something weird with the wording before that I was confused last time, but I think they've updated it. It's much clearer how it works and how, what it works well with. He needs to be tamed. He needs to get married. Powerful removal spell, but at sorcery speed, you'll note. I find it weird that just a random elf is a 4/4 for 4. I feel like you want like a beast or something bigger there. Like a badger warrior. Salamandastron. If you remember Redwall, I'm pretty sure that's what this art is from. Earth Giant. Okay. Oh, Edge of Autumn. Okay, so it's like a cycle of non-mana cycling spells. That's fun. Okay, so another green-white go wide thing. So, I don't know. I mean, the oof thing is kind of weird to me, but I appreciate that they work kind of in tandem with this go wide strategy that's naturally in green-white. Larger than life, nice flavor for this, and art. Maiden of the Forest. Ooh. That's really good fixing. Like, this is a 5-color enabler. Because it can give mana of any color, and then another creature can give mana of any color as well. More treasure. Oh! I said I didn't find any ramp in blue, but I forgot there was like the 4-mana 3/3 that gives you treasure. And there might have been another thing that gives treasure as well. So I guess blue-green ramp is kind of treasure focused. And Maiden of the Forest giving some ramp is nice too. Yep. Going wide with oofs. Death Touch for black-green. I mean, this just seems like a pretty well-developed set. I still have my misgivings on Venture, but as I've noted, but I can tell that it's been carefully crafted around it. This is... How good is this? 5 mana for a 4/3 that never dies. Isn't great. I mean, is good. Is great. Paying 2 mana for that every turn. This might... I'm wondering if this is like too good at common or not. The base body is not super great, but it's big enough that it having indestructible each turn is quite good. And I don't remember white having like the ability to just exile creatures or black. So I guess it had white and blue have auras that tap them or that don't allow them to attack you. But the Underbridge Troll could still go on adventures. Webweave Widow. Oh, that's cute. Has reach, gives reach. Good old giant spider. And then that cycler. Jiragi Skin Changer. Did red have a dual face card? I don't remember. I feel like it's the kind of thing you want one in each color, kind of like the non-mana cycling costs. But this seems like a really good card. It's interesting how most of these just seem like monstrous. You're just paying mana to make the creature bigger, one-time thing. Which, plays really well in limited. Oh, green has multiple transform. Elf Child turns into a Goblin Warrior. Oh, it just decides to be a goblin. Huh. There's a really interesting story here. But it might send weird signals, like are there supposed to be off-color dual-face cards? Like, is there supposed to be a cycle of them? I kind of wish the dual face cards were a clean, even cycle, like it was the same in each color. That's not how it's been done before in Innistrad, because obviously red-green werewolves was a thing. They needed to have more werewolves. Yeah, some artifacts. Good luck charm. Okay, this is probably not worth a card. Maybe this gives the soft evasion I was talking about earlier. Like, you can attach this to something and be like, you can try to trade with this, but I might just use my good luck charm to kill your thing. Or you can just let me complete my adventure. Magic Mirror. This is quite the control tool. I would say it needs a period, but it looks like it's quoting a song. I would see how Wizards does lyrics and those kinds of quotes and flavor text and try and copy it. Maybe they already did. Magical Loom. Making coins. This is really well done. All of these top-down designs that still fit within the set. Okay, these common cycling lands are bonkers good and limited. Just super good. Radiant Fountain. To help the game slow down. I worry if there's just an aggressive deck that just ignores adventures and just uses all the evasion and tempo that's supposed to be helping you complete adventures, but they actually just use it to beat face, and they have cycling lands so that they never flood. They just are always getting more gas. I don't know. That's a beautiful art. I really like that. Okay, we've done the comments. That's a pretty good overview of the set, how it's built. Oh yeah, well, I'm just going to check. What was White's non-mana cycling card? Because it felt like a cycle of cycling cards. And they don't have one. Huh. Did blue have one? Also, what else does blue use to ramp with? Sleep Forever? But that's going to be one of their main things. Yeah, maybe they don't have... Did blue have any cycling? Maybe not. Weird for blue to not have cycling. I'm a little bit confused by the numbers of... Yeah. So black has one. Red and green. Huh. I don't know. Figuring out the ASFAN for cycling is always a trick, and since they're not like critical parts of any of the draft archetypes, maybe it's okay that it's not consistent. While I'm thinking about it, though, I'm going to look at transform. Okay, so we have the paladin that becomes an equipment. Yeah, red doesn't have one, but green has two. I really wish red had its own. Just saying. Instead of green having two. Alright. Uncommons. Alright, some more curses. This is pretty good. It's a little slow. But it seems this is the kind of curse that I'm more willing to play in a slow control deck because it actually affects the board. So this, that's kind of fun. You can marry something that doesn't show up to fight, and it will still help you. Cry Wolf. Oh, I love this card. You can. This is definitely a blowout with a wide deck, but you can only do it once. This is essentially trinket text and tap them unless there's a card named Cry Wolf in your graveyard. Trinket text meaning it it has no real mechanical value in 95% of the time, but just reading that text makes the card work. Kind of like Baneslayer Angel had the trinket text against demons and dragons. It just makes it sound and look so much cooler, even though in gameplay there are only a few matchups where that actually mattered. And the main reason you're playing it is for the first abilities. Okay, Fairy Godmother, find an aura. But it doesn't find an adventure? That's weird. Were there auras in white? There was a dub. Okay. I mean, it makes sense as a top-down. Farajo, Farajo. I'm not exactly sure how it's supposed to be pronounced. He's a Laredo planeswalker. Good to see them getting around. It's a cantripping fog. Yikes. I object. I object to this design. Cantripping fogs are only lead to unfun decks. I mean, it's not a fog, they can't attack players, you can still attack adventures. I see how that fits in the environment. I would just make this a bad common that costs 1 and a white. It doesn't cantrip or do other things. But I object to this design for constructed reasons. Innocent Princess is wonderful, just the trope of the princess who goes through the forest and all the creatures get along with her and don't do her harm just because she's friends with all the animals. Oh, interestingly, the Lord creature type is probably being replaced by Noble because Throne of Eldraine uses the Noble creature type instead of Lord. So I know that's one thing they're already planning on fixing. I don't care so much about that, except for the sake of being up to date with Wizards' known standards. Overprotective Wife. I have a problem with this card mostly because of the art. I've seen this art for the knight protecting the princess or the noble like 100 times in a bunch of different sets, and so now seeing the same art, but supposedly it's the princess protecting the soldier, makes it kind of not work for me. It is nice art though, and it's a fine design. I like it. Power of Love. This is beautiful. Just a great card. Great design. Ugly Duckling. Swan King. Ah, that's beautiful. I feel like Throne of Eldraine is just going to be a little bit too edgy to kind of capture the same delightful uh, tone that Avarelle has here, and I think that will be too bad. I know that they have their top-down riffs on like Goldilocks, but that Goldilocks card doesn't make me smile. I'm not like, oh, I get it, that's cool. I'm like, oh, you can make 3 bears or make a death touchy, edgy Goldilocks that kills things. Like I see that they did the thing design-wise, but I'm not excited to play it and smile as I do so. And I think that's where Avarelle really sings, and I think you see that a lot in probably in Uncommon and Rare, where you see a lot more of these top-down designs that don't have to worry so much about how they form the environment and more about just them hitting the right notes and filling in the corners and edges of the set. Okay. Oh, plane cycling. I don't know if I agree with basic land type cycling in addition to cycling, if it's only for these one-off designs. Um, I think that's stretching your use of the cycling mechanic a bit far. You could argue that cycling is just so evergreen and or not evergreen, but deciduous or whatever it's called. It's just such a well-known mechanic that you can afford to use the variance of it within a set and in any number, and players will just kind of go for the ride. Uh, but I personally wouldn't do it. Just this design, uh, I love it. If you control no lands. So I love it for constructed because this helps you not have mulligans. Like if you're like, oh, I don't have enough lands, well, this can be a land instead. A 3/3 for 3 that flies is kind of a body. It's kind of okay in some constructed decks. If there's a flying deck in the constructed offerings of the set, then this is a fun card to have in it. Uh, like I love the design itself. I think that's cool. I worry that too often people will read these like, if I control no lands, I have got like 7 lands. This seems awful, and they'll miss the fact that this is meant to only affect your opening hand and make more hands more keepable. You shall not pass. Oh, we're portal now. Only during an opponent's turn. With all their instants that can only be cast during certain phases of the turn. Okay, I was trying to figure out why they had to have that rider instead of just saying target defending creature. It's because they need to be able to block as many things as possible before they become a defending creature. Or because they don't want it to be an aggressive trick, just a blocking trick. So this is definitely potential blowout, but that's probably why it costs white and is uncommon. Flicker Flitter. Flicker Flitter. There's a lot of 1/1, like 1 power flyers for 2 mana. So you're flickering your opponent's thing so you can get through. This is more helping you hit your adventures, I think. Okay. This is another way I would want curses in a blue-white control deck, is if I could trade them in for cards that actually are useful, I guess. Uh, Making them attack you, I don't think will be a problem. I think they'll be attacking you already. I don't know. I've never seen real clear tactical reasons to use effects like these and have them be consistently good. They always feel like niche effects, which I guess is why uh, this having cycling is correct. Lady of the Lake. Find an equipment. Awesome. Oh, that is so fey. It's dangerous to displease her, but it's worse to please her too well. I love this. This is a great blue-green ramp target also. Uh, One issue with mind control effects is they just don't have anything big enough for me to mind control. So you're ahead, you have this great card that can win you the game, and you have the mana to cast it, but they just haven't cast their bomb yet. So you just keep holding on to the board state, controlling the game until they finally think they can get back into it. And then you steal it. I like that this kind of shortcuts that, puts the game out of its misery earlier. You know, you're a little bit ahead. They've got like a giant spider, or the widow spider, or whatever, stopping your flyers from finishing off the game, and then you can just take it and get way ahead. I like it. I understand that this works with adventures, but it works in kind of a way that signals things weirdly, like draw 3 cards, and then you want to get rid of your adventures. Uh, I guess this helps, like, if you're in the adventure deck, maybe you have a critical mass of adventures, but you might sometimes draw too many, and this lets you toss some. I don't know. I guess if you're also doing curses in blue-white, maybe that's what this does. This helps you, play at instant speed in a controlling deck, and um, you need to dig yourself out of a hole or affect the board. You can get rid of your curses. All the best curse-related cards are the ones that get rid of your curses, I guess. I don't know. Wow, that's an art. Merfolk Lord. But it's not actually a Merfolk Lord. Kind of. Gives hexproof to things. Oh, it becomes a human. That's adorable. Okay, so it's a cycle of different kinds of cycling. If it's a full cycle, I approve. If it's not a full cycle, I do not approve. I like this way of getting cycling into the constructed offerings. Also, it's randomly good against clean slate, but maybe not good enough. The joke being that once you cast clean slate, you basically win, and anyways, your opponent has to fight back from it, are probably not going to be good enough, and will just prolong the inevitable. To see the world. I kind of want to see like more bigger adventures that just kind of hang a lantern on the fact they're very swingy, but then they give you enormous effects, and so they feel like things that your opponent really wants to defend against. Uh, kind of raise the stakes there. I don't know if that's actually correct design-wise, but I'd be interested to see what those designs look like. Undoing the wizard's work. Again, the onboard tricks just leading to a lot of complexity and feel bad feelings. It sucks because if you have these, these enchantments that turn into spells, what how do you make them exciting? Well, the most exciting and useful spells in limited are removal. So you naturally want to make them removal, but that just makes them feel bad. And again, maybe they play better than what I'm saying, that I'm afraid of. Hexproof from cursed players. Ah, flavor bar. Fix the flavor bar. Well, this is a good control finisher for the curse deck. Well, I've been swayed on the curse deck. I want to try it, even though I've kind of ragged on all of the support for it. Of course, I do like playing bad limited decks as long as they have a clear or interesting focus. Wait, so this is a Sphinx that is a throne? I mean, it's a fun story. I wish the first art sold it a little bit better, because I don't see it. I don't see the visual narrative well. Wizards. How many tribal things we have going on? We have wizards, we have oofs, and knights. And those are all archetypes. You might want to cut down by one. Maybe not. Maybe it's fine. Cool. I think this is a great card. Like, very strong. Whoa. This is an interesting build around. Uh, do you want to be able to just solitaire out your opponents with this? I'm curious if that's been how this is play tested, how it feels if you're playing against the blue-black wizard deck and they just play a bunch of Coven leaders who They don't even bother attacking you. They don't bother blocking. They don't care about your adventures. They just build up the right number of wizards and just start draining you huge amounts. At least it's uncommon. Like if I were to open this, I would be all about it. I would go hard into that. If I had two of them, look out. That was damage. Let's do Death Touch Tribal. I think there's something weird with the rules where it's difficult to call out creatures with abilities. They've done it with flying recently, so I guess you can follow that templating to make sure it works the way you want it to. Death Touch being a thing in the set is also interesting with adventures. Whoa, Death Touch Menace Haste. It's keyword superior. I guess that's how you make a 5-mana card constructed relevant? Maybe? I don't know. I'm worried this is the wrong design for this effect in black. But it looks really interesting and limited, for sure. Oh, this is beautiful. Spoiled heir. When their dad dies, they become a brutal tyrant. That's wonderful. Whoa. What a weird card. Test of character. Demons can't lie, but they really don't need to. Great flavor. I love this design because I'm sitting here like, this is interesting. I really need to stop and think about this card and how it works. Traveling salesman. Wow. Draw a card, lose a life. Draw 2 cards and lose 4 life. That's probably the mode that gets used the most, maybe? I'd love to play this with Metropolis and Custom Standard, all of the ridiculous life gain, and then start spending it with your Traveling Salesman. I wish that the flavor text matched better what's going on when you play the card, and just like, wow, you can draw 3 cards, but look at that payment. Like, look at these prices, but look at what you can get. And the fact you're empowering players to do as much risk reward as they want is exciting. I think this is a wonderful design. I love that. I hadn't seen that before. Exiling a creature or adventure. Okay, here's some exiling. Get rid of those trolls. Unhappy ending. Oh, let's just tell everyone he was revived by the power of true love. Ooh, oof. That's a great card. Unworthy usurper. Hmm. You want to fix the thing there? It's got to be two dashes. I'm like doing some nitpicky suggestions just because they'd said they wanted to declare the set complete, and I know that's something that I tried to do many times with Metropolis, and I always ended up coming back to fix little things here and there. Just wanted to note those things so it doesn't find them later and be like, well, I've called it complete. I don't want to go back and mess with things now. This is a nice little story to it. Wicked stepmother. Oof. Huh. Death touch and indestructible. Interesting. I want to try and fix the spacing here. Yeah, so like this card, I would always feel bad using it on an adventure. Like pay 4 mana just to make my other card good. Like now we're spending 2 cards for 1 effect, one of them costing 4 mana. I was more okay with that at common, Like, just in case you have to do it, it's nice to have that as a mode. But it feels worse. Like, I'd feel awful if I did this on an adventure. It also looks like cheating. Like the red cards that seem designed specifically to just get all your adventures. It feels like you're not letting players participate in the gameplay loop you want them to be doing. And maybe you just rely more on the crafting of the environment you've already done and the other enablers you've had of granting evasion and haste and combat tricks that let them get in to complete their adventures instead of these, I think, are a little bit um, ham-fisted design here. I much prefer Dragon Raid. Because you can incidentally deal damage to adventures with this, but it doesn't call it like you can finish off an adventure, or get an adventure and a creature. The fact that this doesn't split is pretty bad. If this could split the damage, like if this were sorcery and it was this effect, deal 4 damage divided among any number of targets, and it had mountain cycling, I think that'd be a good constructed design. I think paying 4 mana to, take care of a bunch of little things on the board works well. It would work well in limited to clear out adventures without making the player think you weren't good enough to solve your adventure yourself. Use this card. Eggbringer Bunny. This is the card that I've loved in every draft when I've seen it, and it makes me immediately look to the set like, all right, what eggs can I find? I wish there were a few more eggs, but I mean, you don't have to like make sure that the format can support egg decks every draft. It's because red has a common 4-drop that this curves into, the Humpty Dumpty card. You're missing a period there. Flamebeard Dwarf. Seems fine. Mittling Mage. Cycling counts. That's better than whenever you cycle or discard one or more cards. Okay. Ah, more eggs. Okay, so you can't like make the egg big and attack things. I appreciate that. It's not like Hearthstone. Oh, weird. It's a 1-mana 2/1 trample. I don't know if... I'm just wondering if this, like having to wait for your 2/1 trample and the fact it has to attack each combat is worth the DFC frame. Like this whole, does this really need to be a DFC or can it just be like red? I mean, it essentially enters tapped, right? You don't want to block with it, but if you have to, you can to chump something. I don't know. Like it seems like a laborious design for what's essentially already in the set, the man-eating snail, right? I guess this has trample, and I guess it can chump block the turn you play it, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's probably fine. It was just something I would wonder. So this is like a version of Active Treason that is also fun in Commander formats, I guess. Plunder the castle. Okay, this is cool. You get a lot of card advantage off that. Whoa. Lightning bolts every time it attacks. You want to find ways to actually give it power, though. I wonder how this plays. Feels weird to attack with something with 0 power. We already talked about Dragon Eggs. That's a fun one. Wedded Warriors. Oh. This is one that gets worse, but when it transforms, but has a nice story, a challenge. This can be a good 2-for-1, but again, you have to be ahead. A little bit swingy here, but nice flavor anyway. Chivalrous Mantis. Kind of a weird design. Not necessarily bad, just, one you have to think about as you play it. Kind of manipulating combat for hitting those adventures and so forth. Did green have adventures? I don't remember it common. Okay, declared dominance. Is there some story between this and the black one? The 5-mana 5/5 with keyword soup? I don't know, I don't think I like those designs. I don't like the keyword soup here, and I don't like... I want them to be more constructed viable. Okay, so this is like, they get to choose what fights. Green Knight. Giant Knight. Oh, I love this. White Knight, Black Knight. I love that the Green Knight is like, okay, I'm not going to mirror you guys. I'm going to do what Green does, and I'm just going to be enormous. I'll fight whoever you want to send. It just seems appropriate. Nice payoff for oofs. Why is it a wizard? I don't know. Okay, giving more death touch. Enormous snake. A big thing having death touch is not as... This becomes redundant, but the fact that there's some death touch tribal going on makes it more okay, possibly. I'm not sure how good this is. I don't think I like the art, also, because we're not seeing much of the giant. We're seeing that it's from another world, but we're not seeing the giant itself. I think you want to be clear what the it is, because it could be referring to the creature it's paired with or itself. Well, maybe not when you say X is that creature's power. No. Yeah, you might have to say otherworldly giant again, right there. This is an adorable card, I like it. Dark Lord's Orders. Oh, cool. So this is like really signaling pretty hard. You want to active treason your opponent's stuff and then sacrifice it. And then you get even more value. Nice design, nice signaling. More 2-mana flyers with 1 power. That will definitely make the games go slow if that's all you're running. This is a wizard thing, though. I love this. It makes eggs. Oh. There's a Throne of Eldraine card that's the same concept, except it makes food, and you tap the food or something. If you have 2 food, you can use it to do mana of any color. I don't know. I like this better. It's more straightforward. So finding 3 adventures for 5 mana is pretty exciting, except that they don't do anything when you play them. You have to hit them. But if you have evasive creatures, if you have ways to get in there, like you've got your Goblin Smuggler variant, you then get your dragon. I don't know. Okay, this is a really good curse for a controlling deck. Knights. This is encouraging you to trade your Death Touch creatures for their creatures, but then you recoup the card disadvantage from doing that. I like that. It still seems weird to have like a whole archetype based on a single kind of interaction, but I guess Black-Red is doing something similar with like you want to active treason their dudes and sacrifice them. And Wizards has done whole archetypes based on that before, and it's been okay. This is a really fun build around. Did I say build around? It's a really fun top-down design. I'm sorry, it's getting tired here. It's getting late here. I'm getting tired. Okay, we're just gonna go on to rares and mythics. This is a weird design. I guess you feed all your people out of the house. Oh, there's a lot of transforming lands here. Ah, this is not a fairy tale thing. Well, I guess it's a Russian fairy tale. I guess that's what Yarog is. Is Yarog, what's her name? Uh, oh, I forget her name. But the witch with the walking cottage. I guess that fits Avarelle okay. Alright, rares. Happily Ever After. You make your creature pair with theirs. Oh no, you can make their creatures pair with each other. You can basically pacifism two of their creatures with one card. Nice. Oh, he becomes an adventure. That's cool. It's a prince. When he dies, I don't know if you want him to have first strike, because that'll make it less likely he dies. Um, that could be interesting if he had lifelink, I think. Because a lot of times you have lifelink creatures and you want to gain their life, but you don't want to lose them, and so you don't risk them in combat even though you still want to gain the life from them. I think this would be a neat design to have lifelink because you're more okay with losing him or trading with him. Oh, and then it transforms back. Oh. Oh, that's funny. Another hyphen issue here. Oh, weird. Just, oh, yeah. On Rescue the Prince. That's a cool design. Some more keyword soup. I think that fits this design, though. This reminds me of Silverblade Paladin. Make your Silverblade Baroness. That's neat. If you wanted to push this for constructed, I'd see what putting it at 4 mana does. Steal from the rich. Is this worth a card? I guess it literally is if it has cycling. This is an interesting, like, brawl or EDH card. The issue is it's kind of a one-shot thing because treasure tokens are always just a one-shot thing. Trapped in a town. Okay, so here here's an adventure that actually does something when you play it. And then they gain control of it, and they have to accomplish the quest. So, exploring the adventure space really interestingly in these white rares so far. Oh, this is a great card. This is very strong. There's a lot of exiling creatures until the permanent leaves the battlefield. Was there even another one? No, it was just another rare removal thing. Even though it's your own creature here. Oh, that's a cool design though. It basically creates a mount mechanic just for this creature. That's really cool. Trancing Melody. Oh, is that Pied Piper? Yep. Oh, that's a great design. Was it Trancing Melody already a design before it was in Rivals of Ixalan or Ixalan? Because this is the perfect flavor for the Pied Piper. What a great reprint. Okay, so tapping more wizards. Oh, that's cute. Master Fantasia. It's a wizard spirit. The art is a little weird. I'm not sure who the wizard is. Is it the little boy? Why is he a 5/5 flyer? A little, watch your text there. Kind of a weird design. I'm a fan of having the big blue, you know, limited bomb, especially for blue-green ramp. Mirror Maiden. Okay. Oh, so you don't have to control the creature you pair it with. Interesting. Search for the lamp. Oh, I love this design. This is great. 6. It'll suck if they remove this after you've already removed like 4 quest counters. I wonder if you want these to have hexproof. Like the rare ones that have huge um, quest count numbers. I mean, it is blue. Something I'd look at for this design in particular. I don't know. I mean, you only pay 2 mana for it, so if they're spending a lot of, any equivalent amount of mana to get rid of it, it's not really a blowout per se. You just kind of wasted some turns of attacks. Huh. I don't like this design because it encourages you not to play cards. I wonder if you want this to be combat damage, by the way. Wizards usually makes it specifically combat damage, so you can't like put a pinging um, aura on something and do some untap shenanigans to get ridiculous Ophidian triggers. Although maybe that's okay for something like this. Sphinx Librarian. Tells you their combined CMC and how many are of each color. I love this design. This is so cool. I mean, it probably takes a really long time to resolve. Like, so long, I don't know if you want it good enough to be in constructed. Like, this is almost there. Because, it's 5 mana, 4/4 that could give you potentially 3 cards, especially in constructed where you have the streamlined decks where you have 4 of this, 4 of that, and you might have a really good idea of what those cards could be. But it just takes so long to resolve. I don't know. Suspicious Island. Okay, that's cool. Wow, what a disparity between tone. And there's like a giant artist signature there. Yeah, another lord thing that wants to be a noble. I really like the play pattern here. It reminds me of the white one, where you're constantly rescuing this stupid prince who keeps dying. Um, who, by the way, may not want lifelink actually, because if he keeps just coming back over and over again, it's going to be really demoralizing to play against that, because he's constantly gaining life and then regaining the card advantage of the prince. It just seems hard to fight against. Yeah, I wish the tone matched better. I'm okay with the differing tone within the sets, but not within the same dual face card. It's very jarring. In kind of an amusing way, but I don't think in the right kind of amusing way. Curse of Eternal Slavery. Okay, I like this. This is a nice, simple design. I'm kind of surprised we haven't seen an equivalent curse like this um, already in Wizards sets. So a cool curse. Surprised that curses aren't in black. Demon of Temptation. Flying lifelink, 6/6. It's limited bomb. Oh, each player can do this. Oh, this is that same thing. Another card that takes a while to resolve. And a nice, fun multiplayer card. For these cards, I never know who does what in what order. Like, what order are the decisions made? Like, do I wait for them to decide, or they wait for me to decide first? I just don't know the rules well enough to immediately know how that works, which would make it a little bit hard to resolve, but I think it's a fun design. I think this might be a better common if it returns creatures to your hand. No, that's horrible actually, because you can already do that for 1 mana with Raise Dead, and that's not even a very playable card. Spicy. Okay, seems fine. Well, a lot of these black cards have a lot of, they may do this, if they don't, that, then this and that. Wait, what? Oh, the payer, not the player. That's why I'm confused. It looked like, wait, you are only doing this so your opponent can play cards? This is an interesting design that is unfortunately probably not good enough to justify itself. Since you already have kind of the deal-making thing with Demon of Temptation, and you already have the, like, playing exiled cards, Man of Any Color with Thief King's Triumph, I'd look at maybe putting a different design here. Also, that art is already in Janata. I don't know how much you care about that. Oh, cool. Treacherous Vizier. I love this one. This is great. Oh, there's a lot of DFC black cards. What does this do to a game? Does it do positive things? I don't know. I think in a slow game this could just be miserable, like make the game miserable, but it definitely does something weird and interesting. Have to play it to know. Lightning bolt every turn. That's simple and splashy. Amorous Dragon. That what the heck? That is silly and ridiculous art. This is the snail problem. The fact that it's such a splashy and powerful card, uh, it has an immediate effect on the board. So like players are going to be first picking this all the time. It has such weird, horrible art. I think makes the art a problem. I love this design. I love wheels. This is fine. Again, I wonder, I guess you want adventures to cost not a lot, just in case you can't make them, so you don't feel terrible about the investment if it gets removed or you just can't complete the adventure. But I wish more of the rare ones like cost a bit more. Just mostly from a design perspective, I'm just curious what those designs would look like. Mad King. Okay. I feel like he could be crazier. I feel like this coin flip could be a lot more intense. There's no downside here. Well, I guess they have to attack. It's like upside and downside on one side of the coin. The other side of the coin is just nothing. I guess he's sane sometimes and crazy other times. Yeah, that makes sense. Quest for the Holy Blade. And then you find the blade. Makes sense. The narratives of each card seems to be very resonant, crafted very well. Treasure Hoard Dragon. Everyone gets treasure when it dies. I love it. This is a huge ramp card. I would see if you could get it to cost 7 instead of 8. 8 is just so prohibitive. 5 impossible tasks. That's a very grim fairy tale. How the parents of beautiful daughters just give ridiculous tasks. A great story in that card. Generous Oak. Oh, hard to parse this card because you have to stop and think what it does with each trigger, which is why it's rare. This does not feel rare to me. Like, sometimes this will just do nothing. And when it does do something, it doesn't do that much. So you have this pushed creature that you want your own creatures to kill so that they can be famous and have vigilance and hexproof. I mean, it's nice that it gives it hexproof. The problem is if they can they remove? No. Stephen, the many-headed. Well, that's weird. Oh, that's cool. I feel like a lot of cards, that's what I'm saying. Oh, that's weird. Oh, that's cool. In that order, once I read through the whole thing. It's a clever marriage. Hydra. I like it. I'm surprised I haven't seen a pairing Hydra like that with the other mechanics. Tarask. Oh, nice. I like it. Okay. I like that design a lot. That's fun. It'd be interesting to see how that would work in Constructed. She's not a great attacker. She's only a 2/2 for 2, which is not great in Constructed. So you really, it's about getting the value. Whoa, there's gonna be a lot of flipping. I don't know how I feel about the transform cards that flip back and forth, because then they just start, it just introduces a lot of strategic complexity and memory issues of what's going to happen on whose turn. Maybe I'm just feeling that way because it's late. Cool, that seems fine. Is that a Headless Horseman? Harmonious Kingdom. Cool. Oh, that's cool. Young adventurer that becomes retired. Why is she every color here? Like, I think there's a flavor reason, but there's no mechanical reason, and I think that's going to throw people off. Ah, the Fairy Queen. So we do have some Fairy Tribal, but I think only with this design. Nameless God of Crawling Things. Name is a little bit long, ironically, for a nameless god. Uh-huh. That's a cool design. I like it. Renegade Psychopomp. Oh, cool. Ah, it's Oracle's Ploy from Heirloom. Okay. This is the signal for blue-white curse control. This affects the board and is a curse. Like the sign that, the thing that makes the deck good. The Sword and the Stone. This feels like an uncommon card, not a rare. Treasure Vault. Cool. Whenever you spend treasure, you create mercenaries? Weird. Artifact lands. Oh, that's going to lead to some spicy stuff. You do have to exile a lot of creature cards. Why does this have to be an artifact, though? I feel like castles cannot be artifacts. I think it's okay for them to not be artifacts. There's just so many mechanical ramifications of a land that is also an artifact. I guess if it's part of a cycle of castles. It's not really a cycle. Something weird going on here. Oh, the Endless Forest. I love this. You draw all your forests. I think this could cost 4 instead of 5. I don't know. I really love this design. This is wonderful. To each creature and planeswalker. This is too good. Having a board wipe on a land is incredibly good. There's just no opportunity cost. Uh, like it's been tried, not specifically board wipe, but similar, like big swingy things as activated abilities on lands. And I'd be very careful with this. I don't think it's what you want. Anyway, oh shoot, we gotta do Mythic still. I say shoot only because it's late, not because I don't like the set. The last Verjo was also cost 4 mana. Oh, cool. It's got the War of the Spark, Planeswalker, technology. Oh, I love this design. Create a pacifism. Or gain life. Stop the world. Well, that does stop all the creatures. So it's kind of like a board wipe, unless they have some way to remove the counters. But what in the set remove those counters? I don't know. This seems like similar. Huh. One of those time warps with a weird drawback that make you think, well, how can I abuse this then? I guess if you win the game at the beginning of your upkeep kind of things, or like if you have done this solitaire win condition where you're not interacting with them, but you just need time and cards and to do more of what your combo wants you to do. To the moon. Oh, so you can only attack this with flyers. That's cool. Wow. Whoa. I don't know if you can have. I think that it's got to be the top card of their library because there's too much sleight of hand stuff in paper magic where, like, oh, I can look at your library and you can't. And they go through the library. It's like too difficult for judges and players to like know that they're not shifting the cards around and manipulating the deck. You've seen people get banned from Magic for, you know, for doing some crazy sleight of hand just when they're cutting their opponent's deck. So I'd watch that. However, this is very cool. Uh, cool, rewarding, splashy adventure. What's interesting, it's a build around not just in finding ways to complete the adventure, but also with flying. It's unfortunately probably not good enough, because if you're a deck with lots of flyers, do you really want to give your opponent 28 life? I don't know. Like, you need that tempo as a flyers deck to be getting them low in life. I don't know. Whoa. This is kind of win more. I'd do this in mono black control for sure. Make some treasures. I think this is probably better than it wants to be. Hmm. Like, I wonder if this wants you to go first. Oh my goodness. This might be a little too random. I think you have just a lot of kind of cards with a lot of random design, random, just hodgepodge of things going on with the card. Just a lot to take in strategically. To make the individual card really cool, but then taken as a set, you just have a lot of these cards. Maybe I'd look at which one you like the least and maybe replace it with a simpler, more Timmy design. Whoa. Hmm. I don't know that the back side is different enough from the front side to justify the design. Like, you're attacking with a big 7/7 creature. I guess one of them wants you to be going wide, and this one just wants you to go through forcefully. I don't know. I don't know if the difference is enough. Like, it's just doing great things while you attack in different ways. Which I guess is how you want a random thing to be. You want the player to be happy either way. This is a really interesting design that I really like a lot. I kind of wish it were a little bit easier to cast. Uh, like I wish I could do this at least in a 2-color deck so that I have more tools to build around it with. Like use blue 2-mana, no, yeah, blue 2-mana 0/4s that suddenly become 2/4s for 2. There's not a lot of cards like that in red. Okay, seems cool. On Vasilisa Ilyina. Okay. Why would you become a wolf instead of the worm? I guess if they have a 2/2 and you know you want to kill it, and you'd rather kill it than deal 5 damage to their face. I don't know if that's different enough. Like if this were to if you were to play this constructed, if anybody just wouldn't ever use the worm instead of the wolf. A lot of keywords here. That's another thing I'd look at, just how many designs just have 3 or more creature keywords on them and see if you can't cut some of them down. Just shaving the corners of some of these designs, simplifying the set a little bit. So that each card um, isn't overwhelming to look at. This is really cool. Build around, a nice EDH Brawl build around. Holy cow, who is this guy? Chenjahar the All-Consuming. What a hilarious planeswalker. Destroy, destroy, destroy. I kind of want him to cost 6 mana. Although a 6 mana thing that can destroy lands each turn is probably out of control. Are these things like the Custard Brawl extra cards? I don't know. I don't know if you want the 3 mana cards in the wedge and shard cards in the actual set. Well, I guess they're mythic, so it's more okay. Whoa, that's gonna get confusing. Everyone's married to everyone. You should love the entire world. Nice. Yeah, that's probably just because I'm tired, but I feel like we get to rare and mythic, and each individual card, a lot of thought has obviously been put into it, but there's just like so much strategic complexity in each of them. Like just trying to think about how the card works and all the different things it can do is just a lot at this point. Okay, that's Avarelle. I've made some various suggestions throughout, and I'm tired enough I can't summarize them, but I think it's an awesome set. I think it's really well done. I don't know that adventures are exactly how they should be for the most fun, and I think some of the designs need to be executed differently, or like the removal adventures. I think probably problematic for fun gameplay, but the set is just structured really, really well. And again, I haven't played enough with adventures to know if what I'm saying about them is actually true. So I'm curious how it plays out. If there's drafts and play testing for the set in the future, I would highly recommend people to play it and see how they like it. I love the tone and the flavor. Uh, I think that many things in it compare favorably to decisions that have been made with Throne of Eldraine. And uh, yeah, it's been a pleasure to look through the set. This probably went on much longer than anybody wanted it to go, but hopefully it's useful and interesting to those who've seen the video. Thank you for watching.